listen. So we know a lot of you were keeping up with our coverage of TIFF over on Instagram and on Twitter and on Letterboxd, but Alina, Zach, and I wanted to get together to talk about all of our picks in a super in-depth style. Let us explain.
So what we do on Let Us Explain is dive deep on something that we can't stop thinking about for other people who can't stop thinking about that thing too. And usually it's a movie or a TV show. In this case, it's a bunch of them because we are all back from the Toronto International Film Festival, one of the biggest film festivals of the year with a lot of great movies that are coming out in the next few months. Before we get into that, I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he's the Princess of Wales. It's Arturo Zurita.
It's Prince. I don't know why I had to be Princess, but I'll take it. Exhausting weeks.
Yes.
Technically, it's like a week and a couple of days. We were grateful to be able to go to Toronto, as well as Alina. If you want to introduce her, give it the...
Yeah, also with us, watching movies from behind a leaf, Alina Montemayor.
Thank you. Thank you.
We literally were all the way behind Alina. That was the first thing I said. You know, I did like, there was a standing ovation at the Winter Garden for Lady of a Portrait on Fire. People were like, yeah, but could you breathe all the way up there? I was like, I was just happy to be in there.
I liked our seats.
Yeah, I didn't. They were really high, but I'm just grateful to be in there. I was grateful to be able to attend the festival, and we were able to see a bunch of movies that we're excited to talk about. And Zach was also able to be there and gave me the heads up on some movies that were so good this man had to see them twice at the festival.
Yes, I will reveal which of the movies I've already seen twice, even though it's only played in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's played some other places. Maybe that's a hint. But we're going to talk about some of our favorite movies from the festival. You know, it features some of the best that cinema has to offer every year. For people who know, nearly every Oscar Best Picture winner of the last 10 years has had a stop at the Toronto International Film Festival, as have a lot of other great movies, including some of our favorites, like Whiplash, like La La Land, like Moonlight.
Book. So there's just really a lot of things. But dude, 2019 was the year, and I've been saying it. It's almost like those Travis Scott shirts where it's like, I wish you were here. Yeah. I have been comparing this year to 2014, one of my favorite years of the past decade when it comes to movies. If you look back on that year's list, stacked. This is that year again, maybe even better. I would say it's better because my favorite movie out of this festival surpasses my favorite movie of 2014. Yeah. So this festival was insane. Everybody who got the privilege to be, it's like you were at Woodstock, but for film. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, well, I don't want to delay you too much longer. I want to hear a little bit about those movies that you really loved. There's two in particular that I know both of you were very, very fond of that I didn't get the chance to see in Toronto. I'll let you decide which one to tackle first, but Parasite and Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I believe, were your two favorites coming out of Toronto.
Well, one of them is number one, so I think you should go.
We'll start with Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I guess.
Okay, yeah, sure. This has been our debate between Parasite and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I have Parasite at number one. Portrait, like, right behind it, though. That's the thing. Like, it's not being disrespectful at being second. It's right there. She has it the opposite. She said, one day I'll come around and learn.
One day.
We'll see. Tomorrow. So, all right, Portrait.
Beautiful. Even if we were all the way up there. Fantastic. Looked amazing. It made you feel things, you know? It's just like, I thought it was going to go one way, but then it went this way. It's just like, come on.
So the premise of the story being, this is from Selena, I'm forgetting her last name. She specifically came out. One of the best things about going to festivals is that you get a little bit of a Q&A with the director.
Or just on intros and
yeah, and her intro, she pretty much said, I will not be pushing this for the Oscars. I'm here to make art. If you like the movie, you like the. We love the movie. Yeah. It pretty much tells a story. I want to say it's 17th, maybe 18th century, a long time ago. 1770. And you have what I call the Rick Ross of painters. This woman just comes out as a boss. That's the beginning of the movie. You could describe it more. I mean, it is.
The premise is this woman that needs to get painted. And back in the day, it wasn't, Tinder or here's my picture.
Yeah, there's no selfies.
It's here's your portrait.
Right.
Does your suitor like this? Do they not? And, being the woman that was defiant, she didn't want to have herself painted.
Specifically because it meant that she had to get...
Yeah, she was off to
be get married. And she did not want to get married.
And it's one of those things where you see her kind of piece things together because it's like, if you're not supposed to know that I'm painting you, well, just us hanging out. Like, how do you put your hands together, or how do you sit, or how do you posture? It was like, come on,
trying to like piece it together, and the entire time it's like, okay, they're like coworkers who don't know how to get along with each other. And then when the coworkers start to get along with each other, things go a different direction. But I don't want to call it like Call Me By Your Name, because that was one of the first ones. We sat in a very similar seat for Call Me By Your Name at Sundance as well, and came out of that movie loving it. I say it's not only better crafted than Call Me By Your Name, but there are some shots in this movie that will stay with you. It's a little sad that it didn't end up becoming the submission for France.
But that's okay.
There's another movie which we think is also just as good. It's really, really good. Maybe it's not Portrait Best of the Decade good, but Portrait has some shots, and you can name some of yours as well. There was one particular shot that you keep getting teased with in the movie, not spoiling what it is. And when it fully comes to a climax, I keep saying this movie has 3 endings. The final ending is a 9 out of 10. Fantastic. 10 out of 10 ending. Just the other endings were 11 out of 10s.
Yes. Absolutely. But like when you analyze that one ending, the thing that I told you, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, and she can't spoil, but she gave me this pitch, you know, and she was.
But
just,
it makes so much
2
sense
days after
why
Portrait, she's like, you know, this is why she did that, and I go,
yeah,
wanted to see it again.
It sits with you.
Yeah,
that's the nice thing
ultimately,
about it.
Are you talking about the story and the ways that it turns that really makes this film special to you? Or is it just everything from the craft and the performances to the actual story itself?
I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And when you are, that's the thing. These two, Parasite and Portrait of a Lady on Fire, there's a third one, but I'm still deciding on it because I have to see it again. We have tickets to see Portrait again in Chicago. Like, these 2 movies don't just stand out for the year. We're talking about 2 movies that are going to make the best of the decade list. That goes with the acting. There is an exchange that happens between these 2 actresses midway through the movie that it feels like a burn. You don't have to be into Downton Abbey to enjoy this movie, is what I'm saying. The closest thing I can connect this to, and you'll know this means a lot to me, Phantom Thread. You know, I think Phantom Thread is just a back and forth ping pong game between seeing who's going to get the upper hand. That's what's going on here. And the part is, one of the characters didn't know they didn't know they were in a competition. So when that gets revealed, it entices you. The direction is incredible. The shots in this movie.
You can just like pause it. Once you're able to own the movie, you can pause and just leave it on your wall. Or
print that thing out. Literally, what did I say? I said, Zach has that software that allows you to play movies in the background. This is probably going up to bat second.
Perfect for that.
It's all of the above. It does one of those things where, you know, when it's talking about a painter and this very beautiful portrait, the Portrait of a Lady on Fire, they show it to you. It's not one of those Pulp Fiction, we're not going to show you what it is. They show it to you and leave it to Celine to be like, and you're going to love it. I want to purchase that thing. I want Neon to surpass A20. It's a Neon, right? For sure?
I think, Neon.
I want to say it's Neon.
Yes, I believe so.
Who also has Parasite, the number 1 movie.
I can double check that.
I want them to surpass the A24 store. All they have to do is just have enough in stock when they're selling the things, and I think you'll be able to do that. But, dude, she hits it on all cylinders. The story, the endings, the music, the cinematography. She begins scenes with the climax, like the visual climax of the scene. That's how she begins a scene. And it's like, all right, now talk. Now let the dialogue go.
I'm really excited to check that one out. Hopefully I will soon, and we can talk a little bit more about it. But you said there's another movie that's at the top of your lists. Tell me about Parasite.
What can I say about Parasite?
I won't stop talking about Parasite.
It took us for a ride. It really, when you look down into it and how it's structured on, I mean, how can I talk about it without spoiling anything?
Well, a lot of the movies that we noticed this year at TIFF did a lot of rich versus poor, which we found was a huge reoccurring theme. Not only with this, but Knives Out. Portrait has it a little bit. I mentioned Knives Out. Joker. Les Mis. A lot. Many movies this year. I don't want to say Belle Epoque, but Son, Mother. There was a bunch of movies that really dealt with the 99% going after the 1%. This is, when you search that up in the dictionary, the movie you get as the definition.
So it's just
like a
really incredible examination of class.
The poster is the new Dark Side of the Moon. In my opinion, in 10 years' time,
Did you see what I sent you? I don't know if Zach, if you've seen it on Twitter. Lulu Lang actually retweeted it herself.
Yeah, the swap.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, the swap.
Oh, sorry.
Of the farewell and
Yeah, they did like a fan post or whatever, and it was a family swapped, and I was like, that's pretty cool. You know that when they start recreating the poster like that, it just...
it's going to be transcendental, but even more so because both movies, Parasite being fully foreign language, The Farewell being half and half. Our video on it when we covered it was she got a lot of flack because it's like, well, is this Chinese or is this American?
Yeah.
It's like, it's me, and I'm both. A lot of people have been saying that Parasite is going to be the thing that is going to move a lot of American audiences to stop going, ugh, subtitles. Have you explained this movie to anybody? Because Karsten said the same thing when he told his mom about it. My mom did the same thing. Oh, it's Korean.
Yeah.
And we both went, hell yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is. It is the better version of us. That's how it was pitched to me before seeing it the first time. And wow. There's a whole video dissertation that could be made to it. So as someone who enjoys us but doesn't love us, this really is it. And what happened to me the first time we saw it?
Completely broke down. That never... Okay, so how do I explain this? This is our dynamic. When we go to the movie theater, it does not matter the movie. It could be Ice Princess from Disney way back when. Whatever it is, I will shed a tear, right? Anything and everything will make me cry.
Do you know when the AMC guy drops his popcorn? She's crying. I'm like, are you... You can get it.
That popcorn lost. It's like $10.
She'll cry at everything. Me?
So, for him, he never, ever. Then I look over. I was like, who's that?
Yeah,
that
Jordan
a
Peele.
tear?
You know the Jordan Peele gif? There's just that coming out of it. I was like, she held me and she's like, I don't know what's going on here. Dude, and I can't talk about it yet. Yeah, and I won't talk about it until the movie's out and everyone can see it. And it's so weird that it's already out overseas, which isn't actually weird. That's a good thing. Because it's building up to this American hype, and I really hope that a bunch of audiences go see it, because I don't just think that this is a good movie. I think this is going to be a cliche. I think this is going to be the Citizen Kane of its time, in the sense that people are going to look back to it and be like, well, yeah, of course, Parasite. It's already happened. There was a Twitter rant that went on the other day. I'm not sure if you guys have heard it. It's funny to mention this, but again, this is Film Twitter's part of the conversation, who said, yeah, I'm just waiting for people to actually like real foreign films, not just the big ones like Parasite. It's so big and it's so good, it's already considered overrated. It's not been released in America. The Oscars haven't even come yet. Like, it's insane. Whether this wins, whether it loses, a lot of people have compared this to Pulp Fiction in the sense of it's a staple. Yes, I believe it's a cliche. It's not even out in America yet. I truly have faith in this movie. Seen it twice, loved it both times, have noticed more things. The thing with this movie is that I really think it's going to bring an entire... What was the last movie that got nominated for Best Picture that actually had a chance of winning and was a foreign film?
I mean, Roma technically last year.
Roma was last year.
And did it win?
But it didn't win. And before that, I don't
do you know
know.
Alfonso Cuarón?
Like,
some people haven't even seen Bong Joon-ho movies.
yeah.
And
Life
that
is
man's made
Beautiful.
movies where they just found the murderer the other day. Like, what?
Right. Yeah, a lot of the stars seem to be aligning
Yeah.
for the Bong Hive. He's due to get some respect. I'm excited to see it because he's a filmmaker that's long been one of our most interesting. But
Say the
and
Uncut
that's the
Gems
thing that
thing.
seems so exciting to me is like I think he's made amazing movies. I'm such a fan of Snowpiercer and Okja and The Host. But
You do. Okja's one of your favorites.
but everybody
Those
seems to
were
be
stones
saying that
so
this
he
is
could fly.
perhaps his masterpiece. So
Yes.
I don't know. I really, really want to see this
And then
movie.
he's so cool.
He is. Okay,
At
so...
Telluride.
At Telluride, this man was being interviewed and was raving about Uncut Gems. Now, this was before seeing Uncut Gems, so I'm like, but this man
made Parasite.
Parasite, you
Yeah.
know?
He's like, yeah, Uncut Gems, though.
But he kept talking about Uncut Gems.
And I was like, are you serious?
So it's like, this man's
He's
really
so
cool.
dope. That's
Like,
the
He
thing
loves
about
movies
it.
to
too.
appreciate it. Yeah, to appreciate other
And
movies,
you see it,
you know?
man. You see it.
And after having seen Uncut
I think anyone can see this. This isn't just that's a very important thing to say. A lot of people feels like, oh, I'm not film literate enough to see a movie like this, or oh, I'm gonna get distracted with the subtitles. No. This is gonna be so accessible for so many people. Whether you're an artsy type of person when it comes to movies, whether you get bored easily, whether you want something that's more I feel like it has everything. I feel like it almost feels like 7 bombs directed this movie. I'm not even gonna lie. It's insane. When do you catch it, dude?
I catch it on October 1st, so we're
coming out, that's coming out.
We're gonna talk.
Yeah, Parasite and Portrait, those are our 2 favorites right off the gate. If you can see any of these, definitely see these. We still have so many more to talk about, though.
Yeah. You've also got a few other movies that I didn't see that I heard nothing but good things from you guys about. So why don't we start with what might have been the most entertaining movie of the festival, Knives Out?
That one was good.
Did you like it as much as I did? Can you explain the premise?
I mean, I know your tweet kind of summed it up. Mm-hmm. It's the whodunit without it being the cliche whodunit. It's you kind of already know the ending, but you're trying to figure out the pieces in between. So,
or maybe we're just good at solving it, but I think her and I kind of...
I really like mysteries and cops and like, okay,
yeah.
and like the little
every movie we
there.
see, it's 20 minutes into the movie, she goes, you know, so-and-so did it. And I was like, dude, what? She did that in Us, too. She just looked at me, she's like,
Were you able to
just
do that with this one?
Yes! I watch most of my movies like I'm watching them twice already.
He did more than I did in this one.
It wasn't so much of a whodunit for you.
But that's what I'm saying. It's still that entertaining.
It's still pretty good. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. The story being about this family, this very famous author who, after his death, which I believe that is revealed, it's his death.
Suicide.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they believe it's a suicide. They go in. I'm not saying whether it's not or not, because that was the thing. I started thinking so many things, and then she comes in and tells me, I believe it's going to go this way, and I go, are you serious? The beauty of it is that Rian Johnson leaves so many things that you can go back and be like, oh, okay, even if once you know who did it, you rewatch it again, and maybe there's some clues in there. He's left enough in there for you to chew on. A lot of people have said he's got a lot of Get Out type quotes, considering that it's practically the family in Get Out. They're just not doing what they were doing in Get Out. But they still act the same way. Again, another movie where, surprisingly, it is very much about the upper class and the lower class, because unbeknownst to me, who's the main character in the movie? In my opinion.
The woman, right? The nurse.
Ana de Armas.
Yes.
Right.
I had no idea she was the main character. I didn't even know she was in the movie, to be honest. I hadn't seen any trailers. All I saw was
I've seen a lot of people talking about her performance as one of the standout ones, but, you know, you've got a really great cast here. What were some of the people who stood out to you among this huge name of talented actors? Huge list of talented acters.
Captain America stood out to me. Toni Collette. Catherine Langford.
Always.
And I've been saying Toni slays. She's not just a good dramatic actress. She can she can make you feel any emotion. I'm surprised Toni Collette wasn't in Hustlers, to be honest with you. Those were my standout performances. I really liked Michael Shannon. I don't know if anyone else stood out to you. I know because she did all the notes. She wrote down all the notes.
I'm trying to pull up my notes
for the stuff, because she had written some specific things.
Were written in the dark, so it's kind of like illegible.
But it is one of those ensemble casts that. Some people say, like, August Osage County, you just stuff a bunch of celebrities in there, try to make it something. No, this is a cast where they really balance off each other. And even some, it's like 007. Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Right.
He comes in, everyone laughed. Including Daniel Craig for his accent. Like, what? Like, everybody just knew. And they're all grilling him. They're all making fun of him. It's a movie that's very self-aware, and it knows what it's aiming for. And it's going to be interesting to see how it's received, only because of Rian Johnson's last movie. And there's the trolls will always come over to this one. But I think some people have said that it's very in your face when it comes to political issues.
Yeah.
There's a lot more political issues in there than you think.
There's a running gag joke, I guess you could say, throughout the film on where what's the actress's name?
Where Ana de Armas is from?
Where she's from, or where they think she's from. They'll
just because the maid from Brazil is here. Yeah. Oh yeah, just because the maid from Uruguay is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because you're Hispanic, they just all interchange it, and that personally hurt and was the funniest joke in the movie. Because damn, is that so accurate?
So true.
Even had me at the end searching up, where is Anna from? I already knew. That is the perfect example of what this movie gets in a whodunit. Everyone's going to go in there looking for Murder of the Orient Express, and I'm going to come out going, was this Get Out too? Like, what? That's what I think makes it a very intriguing movie, and why I say it's worth rewatching, because as you said, it goes above a whodunit.
Yeah.
And I know you haven't generally been the biggest Rian Johnson fan, so would you say this is now your favorite Rian Johnson
Why
movie?
you gotta do that to me, dude? The Rian Johnson fans keep tweeting me, "Oh, The Fly, one of the best episodes of Breaking Bad." I don't ever want to watch that episode again. I get it; it's very contained.
I love that
It's the whole
episode.
story. I know you do. Maybe I'm grown now. I gotta go watch it again. But oh man, not a fan of that episode. Not a fan of flies in general. I think that's what it is. You know. And then Looper, again, another movie where I really like, but as a huge, and this one I don't think I need to rewatch again, because I am way big into time travel movies. Like,
I remember when we watched Looper.
Yeah, I had the primer, like, you know, the primer thing. You know, I was one of those guys. I mean, I'll give it another watch with the best of the decade and stuff. But yeah, I've never been the biggest fan. This is easily his best work in my opinion. Easily.
It's fun.
It's a good movie, dude. It's not. A lot of people just say, "Oh, it's a fun, cute movie." He's got some good points in there. Some bits
Very
where you're
cool.
like, "Eh," but another Canadian French movie had that. Antigone.
Oh yeah.
That movie has some scenes that are just like that would never happen, but that movie still slaps. So I hope this gets a pretty big rise. That's depending though on the winner. I don't know if that was your next one, but I keep combining these two together. Because we saw them on the same day.
Yeah, let's go for it. Jojo Rabbit took home the People's Choice Award. I was hoping to see this one, but did not fit
we
into my
tried
schedule.
getting tickets to see it. You got Ford though. You got Ford and Ferrari.
I did.
Yeah,
We'll
was a
get to
good
that.
one.
But tell me about Jojo Rabbit. What did I miss?
What questions do you have about Jojo Rabbit? Because
Well,
when
the
this
big
came out, it was
question
very
seems
split.
to be, like, based on the Twitter reaction, is, like, is this movie funny or is this movie saccharine? Right?
You're of Jewish descent. I've participated in various Jewish rituals. Do you see? Does the trailer upset you?
The trailer doesn't. I mean, I also don't necessarily find the trailer hysterical.
Interesting. Okay, I'd say that's probably. I haven't seen the trailer yet. I just have seen the marketing on Twitter with Downfall.
Yeah.
That got me, and it's Taika.
That was funny.
It's not Taika's best,
No.
but it's still funny. Maybe tonally inconsistent to a lot of people, but I noticed that the younger people in our crowd had no problem because we're always on Twitter and stuff. And I'm not saying that the older generation isn't, but seeing the changes a lot of going from like, oh, this is very funny and sarcastic, like a lot of the other movies, like The Boy, and then it'll just jump into like emotional manipulation. I'll just put that. Like,
Right.
you know the feather in Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other ones. The shoes is that one in this movie. You'll see it right from the start, but that's a very manipulating one that they have in the movie. Not saying that it doesn't hit, but you're kind of like, it's like when you're eating McDonald's and you go like, yeah, this hit the spot, but you know it's going to hurt later. It's not that healthy for you. You're watching this and you're like, yeah, it's effective and it works, but it's very manipulative, I felt. But there are some jokes in there that are funny. There are some jokes in there that the crowd was
Did the
not
movie like
having
not
it.
sit with you so well? Like, or have you liked it less as you've grown some distance from seeing it?
I don't know about you. I mean, you go first on that one.
I enjoyed it, but at the same time, it's one of those things like, should you be laughing?
No,
Yeah.
I laugh at it.
But it's one of those things because like after.
I don't think the intent is wrong. That's why.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
It's not like LaQuisha, you know? Like that piece of
movie?
garbage movie. Like
Did it ever
that.
come out?
I hope it didn't. That LaQuisha, for those
But-
of you who don't know, is a story of a white man who wanted to be the voice of a black woman because he needed. It's that line from Late Night. Hi, I wish I was a minority woman so that I can get any job I wanted. It's that ignorant line to the max.
But no, in our screening, I felt, and we went to the P&I.
This is it. Yeah.
We went to the P&I screening. For those of you who don't know, P&I is for press and industry, and
You can feel the divide.
you could feel the divide, but there was still a good majority
amount of people who were
that were
laughing.
laughing.
But the other half was like, no.
So then when everyone's reviews came out and they were like geared towards
The
negative, you know, I was like, but you're all laughing.
We came out a little bit,
know?
we're like, oh man. Well, that doesn't mean that the people who wrote the reviews could have been the ones who were quiet during the jokes.
True.
But what we felt, it was the first thing she said was, it's going to be like a Bechdel test? Like, did you find JoJo funny or not? And then it wins the People's Choice Award, which is really interesting. And I start wondering, is this one of those divides again? It's one of the biggest things with Ad Astra. Movies, not even in TIFF. It's always been the divide between the critics and the fans and between, I guess, what really is, you know, in comedy specials. And it was even brought up in the Emmys last night. Yeah. PC culture versus comedy. That was a big thing. Even the Emmys made a joke about it with not having a host. That not having a host is because you want to make sure you can control the jokes and stuff like that. Do I see Jojo Rabbit as being that? I don't know. That's up for anyone to call. I found some jokes to be funny. I found some other jokes not to be offensive. They just fell flat. They just weren't funny. I'm more of a person who gets more offended when the joke just ain't funny and you went for it, as opposed to it maybe not sitting well with somebody else. Because I feel the intent is there. Taika is of Jewish descent, as a lot of people say, Indonesian Jewish descent. Is that true?
As far as I've read,
I just want to make sure, because it's like I don't keep up with him like that. I just keep up with him with his movies. Well, so if that's the case, you know,
it having won the People's Choice Award, that's a award that, for whatever reason, has tend to forecast a future Best Picture nomination at the
Green
Oscars.
Book last year. Green Book last year.
That is true, because
Do you feel like it has the potential to go all that way, or it deserves that?
Honestly, no.
No.
It's not because it's a bad movie, but I think it's like the what you would call it, PC stuff that it has along with it.
You didn't find it to be like an important movie, even though it's about like it's sort of positioning itself as this anti-hate satire.
Sure.
We really liked it.
Yeah.
We just don't think it was like that. If you were to
replace it in modern times with a specific person and make fun of that way and use that satire, guarantee the majority of the audience would love it.
Probably.
Yeah.
But because it deals with, Adolf and, that. Then.
It's interesting because the first thing that we said coming out of it was that. It's like, I wonder if the people who don't like it will like Jojo Rabbit in 30 years when it's different. It's about concentration camps at the border.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
The ice.
Yeah, like what are we gonna do when it's the kid who's talking to Trump,
right? As
his friend or something like that. Yeah. Then I started realizing, is that even darker? Like, is that a mass shooting type movie? We also have another movie called Joker. So yes, it was interesting, I guess, because when you're asking me this question, I'm thinking of Joker. I'm thinking of a bunch of the other movies that have become this huge discussion of, is there a responsibility on the artist?
So I think that's as good a transition as any.
I don't know if I can answer that, but yeah.
I also didn't get to catch Joker, but the two of you did. It was the talk of the festival circuit after winning the Gold Lion at the Venice Film Festival and getting some big reactions in Toronto. What do you guys think? Are you in on the hype? Is this one of the better movies that will come out this year? Is this one of the better comic book movies of all time? Or is it not a comic book movie?
Bro, this movie it does not have DC Comics at the beginning. It shouldn't have DC Comics. Shouldn't even be called Joker. Cut the budget in half. You got yourself a movie that every critic will be rooting for, as they did We Need to Talk About Kevin, as they do a bunch of other movies. I think you would have a great independent movie if you don't connect it to the Joker. That's sad. You wouldn't also have all this buzz if you didn't connect it to the Joker. It's like the best movie and the worst movie at the same time.
It just makes you feel so uneasy. I'm
tired of it, and it hasn't even come out yet. This is the movie people aren't going to stop talking about. And I keep saying, once it comes out, you're going to wish we had the Batman v Superman and release the Snyder Cut, folks, coming back again, all right?
Because it seems like the debates here are going to be about actual substantive and potentially like threatening issues, not just like release the movie. I don't even
want to say that, right? I want to have the best in humanity. That's what I kept saying. Then I saw the movie. And it's going to be really weird because when you're arguing with someone that we don't need the Snyder Cut, they'll argue that Batman and Superman, who are what? Heroes, should be seen. Bro, how you going to argue with me about Joker? No, his story deserves to be told.
And it's not a story that no one has not, like...
Don't get me wrong. Like, I liked it. We liked it. It's just, when we were watching it, we had people who were, like, cheering at the worst parts. We're like, no, that's a Sir, that's bad. He should not. That's not good. Is the bad guy. But it's too good. It's too, what would you say?
I mean, it seems like it's a loaded movie, you know?
It's too good at sympathizing with Arthur.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like he's our main character, so you follow him, you go through what he's going through, you feel bad for him, but then at the same time, it's like, are you just gonna outweigh what's right and what's wrong because you're following him?
And is that not the purpose of the movie? Does that not make it a successful movie?
Yeah.
Is it too successful at being that good of a movie? I don't know. Incredible performance. A lot of people, everyone came out of the thing saying, might as well just give it to him. They said it's between him and Tom Hanks, which then made me go, Tom Hanks is supporting, so maybe y'all don't know what you're talking about. But there is a valid debate between someone else who played the Joker and also won an Oscar, Heath Ledger. That is a debate that will be going on for a very long time, and that is intriguing to me in terms of a performance. As a DC fan, it is very interesting to see how this movie takes a different perspective of the Joker. Sympathizing with him, sure, but also creating a lore, because there are some other characters that appear here that, again, I think it could be its own story without them. Joaquin Phoenix gives enough of a performance, but with them, it actually makes you rethink a lot of what you knew about certain characters, and again, brings a Parasite-ish 99% versus the 1% thing. A lot of people are ignoring that story because, you know, you're sympathizing with a terrorist. It's a terrorist.
Yeah.
He is. He's a terrorist. He's a villain. He's a mad villain, right? But if you can take away what we know of the Joker and try to just see of this, like, broken man, you'll see the cause of effect of how it's called the Joker, and he's a bad guy, but who made him that?
In the end.
That's the best way you can see the movie. It's what caused him to be that, and how do you fix that? But the worry is, how many people are going to be like, yeah, it won't be him.
Right, like who
cosplays as
sees
Batman
that
from
message
Dark Knight,
and how
right?
do they
Everyone
receive that message?
Exactly. How many kids came up to you going, why are you so serious? And I was like, bro, cool impression, bro. Cool impression, bro. Goodbye.
In the end.
The joke's on... You say that. You're saying that.
Well, I'm not saying it.
There are a couple more movies that both of you saw and liked that I didn't get to see, including A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, La Belle Epoque, and Hope Gap. I don't know where you guys want to start, but let me know which were those.
Hope Gap.
Oh, we're going to start, like...
Hope Gap. Your quick thoughts on that one.
Quick thoughts. Intense. Marriage is solved. I mean, it's just...
Marriage is terrible. It's the story of the director who actually puts himself in the... he plays... there's a younger version of himself who's with both of his parents who are in the middle of getting a divorce. And the best thing I can say about this one is Bill Nye and I keep disrespecting her.
Name.
And I really think she's going to get a nomination. I am rooting for her to get a nomination.
I will figure this out, please.
Do you know who's the lead of the
Annette
movie?
Bening?
Annette Bening. I keep
Bening,
disrespecting
yes.
her. And I actually saw her in the red carpet. The only celebrity I saw at the red carpet. I was like, is that Annette Bening? Walked right by us. Annette Bening does an incredible job. One of the lines, and then we'll move on to the next one, is she goes to her son, you wouldn't stop a murder on the street, right? Because the son's not doing anything, doesn't want to get involved with the divorce. Would you stop a murder on the street? Why, yes. Well, your mother's marriage is being murdered right in front of you and you're not doing a damn thing about it. At that point I said, y'all said J-Lo?
Yeah.
Y'all said Look, J-Lo's a good performance, but my top 5 is filled, and Annette Bening's definitely closing out that gap right there. What's the next one?
La Belle Epoque.
La Belle Epoque. Oh, this one's so sad. It's so touching. It's the story of a man whose son gives him a gift on him being able to go to this place where they recreate an entire era of his choosing.
Anything you want.
And he decides to choose the moment that he met his wife.
1974.
1974. So they recreate everything from memory, and the fact that the guy,
the director of the actual like Westworld type project that you can live in.
Yeah, he is friends with the son, and he always appreciated their relationship and their marriage because he never had that with his parents. And he always loved it. So he had almost like his passion project was him
to do this.
So then the guy is also an artist, so he has pictures of his wife, and he drew things from memory.
Easy and
so he's able to just like recreate everything. It's like, oh, I didn't drop a glass of water on you. It was the wine. How did we miss that detail? You know, guys, it's right here. It's all drawn out for you. And you just see this evolve, and slowly, you know, whoever's the actress playing the now then wife
starts forgetting.
He's starting to then, instead of drawing his wife, he's drawing this woman.
Oh, without spoiling too much. There's still a lot more. I called it a reverse Eternal
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Because he's trying to actually remember her. It's
right,
a little bit of
right.
Westworld. It's like the game. And then right towards the last half. It's not. I'm not saying it's better than any of these movies that I mentioned.
Yeah.
You had even called it to Jim Carrey's...
Truman Show-ish.
Truman Show-ish.
It's a Truman Show mixed
where you start
with,
forgetting, who's in the show, who's not. It gets very intriguing. I said it peaks and it gets just a hint of Synecdoche, New York in there.
Yes,
so if you're a fan of any of those, I'm not saying this is better than any of those. I still think those are all masterpieces. But this is a nice supplementary one to have there. It's a very... Almost didn't see, and she read me the synopsis again. She's like, bro, we're watching this. We did. It was very enjoyable.
Love that
one. Pretty good. The final one?
What's our final one?
A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, directed by my girl, Marielle Heller.
3 things. Marianne Heller needs a directing nomination.
Yes, just give it to her now.
Y'all disrespected Ava at the Emmys, Academies. Do not disrespect Marianne Heller with it. I'm not saying give it to her yet, because Bong Joon-ho, I hope, is there too. And also Celine deserves to be in there. There are so many...
True.
Do you remember we had conversations in the past about, like, well, people would be like, was there even enough female directors? Did Sofia Coppola make something this year?
I'll tell you
there
this.
is an abundance this year.
I'll tell you this. I like going into movies completely blank, to the point where I don't know who directs or does anything, and then I look at that up afterwards. The spot of, I enjoyed this movie and loved the way it was directed, and then finding out it was a woman, it's just like, it's a bonus. You know, it's like, it's a woman.
It makes you go, oh, now I understand why they were so heartfelt.
Yeah.
It's a therapy session.
Yes.
Hanks is not the lead.
Yeah, that was the thing that surprised a lot of people. He's kind of the supporting character in this.
Blew up. We woke up in the morning. It was like, we're not.
It's more about the journalist that's interviewing him.
It's about the journalist. The movie begins. I'm only gonna tell you what happens in the first 20 minutes. This is a Mr. Ryan,
but that's not a bad thing, though.
No, she directs this like a therapy session.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be an interview thing, and you realize every conversation that he has, like the journalist really goes, "So we just gonna talk about my day." The movie. This is a Mr. Rogers episode. She directed it like a Mr. Rogers episode. No one told me she was going all in. No one told me there was going to be transitions.
Yep.
As if we were watching a Mr. Rogers episode and the study is on the reporter. And the reporter thinks he's the one interviewing Mr. Rogers. He's the one being interviewed. It's a Mr. Rogers episode that starts with a son punching his father in the face. And it feels so real, and it makes you go, he was never just G for the sake of being G. He was G, and a real G, actually. Yeah. He was a G-rated show that still covered issues like that.
Yep.
I'm a Mr. Rogers stan. We covered the documentary to death. I've worn the sweater.
Which, if you haven't seen, you should definitely check it out.
She's very proud of that edit. Yeah,
I'm so proud of our
Every
LME
time we
edit.
rewatch that LME video, we always, because it ends with him. She found a specific line. I was like, man, it's beautiful. Again, supporting nom, Marianne, please let your team push you all the way to get that nomination. Dude, you loved Can You Ever Forgive Me last year, right?
Yeah. As well as The Diary of a Teenage Girl, her
Girl.
previous
One of
film.
the first videos when we both started doing YouTube stuff. Wow. Dude, she is killing it.
Yeah.
There's some shots that she does where you're just like, okay, she makes you feel every emotion of every character in the room, and sometimes there's 10 people. I am not kidding. Pause the frame. You know exactly what every person is feeling. She cares about every single character in the movie. It's... What did I say? I was like, it's like she's weaving it, but I thought that was a too sexist of a comment to say.
He said they're just knitting.
She's so good. It's like she's weaving everything together. Oh my god. All of it.
Fantastic.
It's fantastic, dude. It's beautiful.
I'm really excited to see that one. I'm as a big fan of her work, and also just like the idea of Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers just feels so perfect.
It's the best option, right?
And it's just enough. It's not like, okay, like I obviously know that's Tom Hanks. It's just enough. It's
nice.
It's like a...
He gets the essence of him.
Yeah.
So that's most of the stuff that I believe you saw that you liked, aside from the things that I know we've all seen. I wanted to get into a few of the movies that I was able to catch you missed. Starting it off with Ford V Ferrari, the story of Matt Damon as Ford and Christian Bale as Ferrari. That's actually what I thought before I went in, but that's not what it is at all. It is the story of how the Ford Motor Company basically decided to challenge Ferrari's dominance in race car building through in the mid '60s with basically an American car designer named Carl Shelby, played by Matt Damon, and a driver named Ken Miles, played by Christian Bale. So they are on the same team trying to take down Ferrari in this movie, which is fun because you get a lot of conversations between two really charismatic actors who know how to handle themselves against with one another. It's a great performance from them both. They're just, I find they're both really fun to watch, kind of being regular. There's moments where they'll just be fixing a car and they'll be talking about the different things they could do to make the race car go faster, and it's the process the process of it that becomes really intriguing and kind of hypnotizing in a way. You like, by the end I was like, make sure they gotta change the tires out in time.
He was telling his Uber driver after the fact, I could feel this in my butt. He was like Daniel Brühl in Rush.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, I'm not somebody who cares about cars particularly, but it kind of just gets you in the way that there's like, we're gonna put on a show movies. This is like, we're gonna win a race movie. We're gonna meet all these obstacles and figure them out and get around problems in fun ways. It's
interesting.
It's nothing that reinvents the wheel. Sorry for the pun, but it's a really well done movie from director James Mangold with a lot of really good actors in it.
After Logan,
this is sort of a weird reaction. I don't know what this necessarily means, but it's like, this is a movie that I think I'm going to take my dad to. And I didn't feel that about.
You said, yeah.
I didn't
feel that about some of my favorite movies, but I felt that about this at TIFF.
You're not the only one who said that. I have some other questions for you on the movie too, but somebody else said that too. They said between this and this, and they said, if there's one to see in a theater. The other one's better, but you gotta go see this one. They said Ford and Ferrari. It's a true story?
Yeah, it's based on a true story. I don't know how true, but it seems like it's pretty close to the real thing.
We're big fans of Rush. In your opinion, better, worse, or right in the middle?
I was more into this than Rush, although I know there's some people who really love Rush. I just kind of felt like I was with the story a little bit more, but Rush was also great, so I can't really.
Does Ford v Ferrari have a naked Hemsworth?
No, there's no naked Hemsworth, no naked Bale, or no naked Damon. But
between the two actors.
So this is a thing.
Yeah, the conversation I'm asking. Should they just both get nominated together, like as a package?
Right, kind of. Like, this is a little bit of a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood situation where there's kind of two leads.
Why are we getting so many of these at once, right? Like, you can't...
The pattern.
Couldn't you let them solve it this year and then Once Upon,
Right. I told you this back when we were in Toronto. I think that Christian Bale maybe pops off the screen a little bit more, but ultimately it's Matt Damon who kind of gets like the Oscar-y emotional scene towards the end. And I think that might be the thing that pushes him over the edge into lead, and maybe Christian Bale goes supporting. But I don't know, maybe they'll try and run a double lead. I could see that happening too.
Do you see anything else standing out from the movie? Do you see directing? Do you see, maybe some of the technical stuff?
I wouldn't be surprised if this gets in for sound mixing, for all the, race noises, all the engine noises and stuff like that. It's a lot of times these louder movies that end up in the sound mixing categories, but it's really well shot. It's not like a front runner for cinematography, but I could see it for cinematography or production design, some stuff like that. But primarily it's the two actors and then maybe the movie as a whole. Because it's just a satisfying movie. It's you talked about how Knives Out has political elements to it, which is something that I like. This doesn't. This is just a fun movie.
Which could be a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it will be ultimately, because it's just a fun, good movie.
I was looking up some of the stuff. I keep forgetting Damon's in the movie, because front and center for everything is what's his name, Christian Bale.
Right.
Like, even in the one shot, it's profile of him, side of Damon, but what's his name's actually looking out. This comes out the 15th of November. Knives Out comes out the 27th of November for Thanksgiving. It's going to be interesting how they do that. Because at least this one will have built up traction. Yep. Pardon the pun. When it comes
it's one of those, like, the mom takes the kids to see Frozen, and the dads go see Ford Ferrari.
But this will have a little bit of a...
That too. Yeah.
So we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Another movie that I liked at the festival, it's from a couple directors that I know Art you're a fan of, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. This is Synchronic. It's a new sci-fi, low-budget sci-fi from the guys who did The Endless, and what else have they done?
I always forget the other one, but it takes place in a cabin with this guy who's trying to help his buddy with rehab. Spring. Yeah. Which, like, you haven't seen those two movies, but they kind of do something. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but they treat their fans well. You know, they go, hey, shout out to the real fans within their movies. They give nice little shout outs. I really appreciate that. How was this one, though? Because this is bigger actors.
Right, you got Jamie Dornan of 50 Shades fame and Anthony Mackie, who does
Captain
a really
America.
great job in this. Really great job in this film. I like Anthony Mackie a lot, but I think he kind of doesn't always have the best get the best roles. This is a good role for him. They are two paramedics living in New Orleans, like all good sci-fi movies. It's, you know, in a world familiar but a little bit different. In this case, all drugs are legal in this world, which has led to a lot of designer drugs being created, including the drug Synchronic. And Synchronic has potentially otherworldly effects on its users. And it becomes this very intriguing adventure story for that I don't really want to spoil, but say that the way that it unfolded felt very natural in a sense that, like, some movies you feel when the plot clicks into place, right? You see the initiating incident and you see how things move out from there. This was more like a slice of life movie, but in the context of sci-fi, where some things happen and then some other things happen,
and then we're here.
And now we're going, and now we're in the middle of some adventure.
What I like to hear.
I loved the way that it unfolded. It kind of just pulled you along, and it's. You know, it's got a really intriguing premise that doesn't necessarily feel like it's been done a lot, though the combination of synthetic drugs and the sci-fi element that I don't want to spoil. I liked it a lot. I'm sure there'll be some people who point out some plot hole mechanics, stuff like that. They have in the last
two as well. I don't go to their movies for that.
But from my understanding of how they make their movies, like, this is something, it is really well thought out. It is really interesting. And I was totally entertained by this, so I'm hoping people keep Synchronic on their lists.
And then you saw them at the Q&A, right? Aren't they dope?
Yeah.
Aren't they dope?
Yeah, very dope, very cool guys. They were very happy to know that there were people in the audience who, like, actually saw their previous movies, which was really cool.
Legit.
Yeah, so I was really happy to see Synchronic. Cool, I hope you get to catch up with that one.
That was dope. I'm so mad I missed it, dude. And I had an opening, and they denied. They said, "Sorry, it's full." Turn on, it wasn't. I was like, "Why did I see that one?" What else did you catch?
Another one that I know from a director you like, Corey Findlay, who did Thoroughbreds, his new movie Bad Education, which. We just found out also sold for a lot of money to HBO, so this will be coming to HBO soon.
Do you know how upset I am?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it in theater. You missed your shot.
No, and it's not even. It's HBO for what campaign, Zach?
Yep.
2020.
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
I wanted to make sure one of us saw it, so finally tell me, because I told you don't tell me anything until we record.
Thoroughbreds did a really interesting job of kind of satirizing kind of like suburban culture a little bit, like taking the piss out of this idea of like happy youths or whatever. This isn't quite so subversive. It's a little bit more in the real world than Thoroughbreds was. Okay. But it's got this really fun comedic edge to it that I think both movies share. And the thing is that this movie stars Hugh Jackman in the lead role, and I think it does this really interesting thing where, for me, Hugh Jackman is this kind of unknowable guy. Like, he's done a lot of very different roles, and none of them necessarily feel like, oh, I'm watching Hugh Jackman, if you know what I'm saying.
I feel that about Christian Bale.
Right, like you don't. It's kind of hard to know what his personality is,
and you still see them.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this movie does a really interesting thing in that it casts him in a role of a guy who's leading these kind of secret double lives, and he's presenting one face publicly and is a completely different person in private. As the superintendent for a large public school, he gets involved at the center of this embezzlement scandal, and just seeing the way that he tries to both keep appearances up while keeping the walls from caving in around him just gets really tense and funny. I found it a really fun movie. It's based on a true story. Also, it's got Allison Janney doing a killer Long Island accent. Really, really funny movie.
Does she live in this movie?
Yes.
The last 3 Allison Janney movies I've seen, they kill her off screen.
she lives. Don't worry.
Okay. Here was the thing with it. When we caught Thoroughbreds at Sundance, that movie didn't come out till 2 years later.
Yeah.
And I made the joke. I said, if we don't catch Bad Education at TIFF, it's not going to come out. What happens? So because it's being picked up by HBO, does that mean it's got an Emmy? Or is HBO, with the entire streaming wars, trying to do something in terms of...
So that's the thing that I was a little bit confused by, because this movie doesn't scream Emmys to me. That being said, it's good, and you've got some star power attached to it. I wouldn't be surprised if it does end up getting some nominations, but it doesn't.
You know what I mean? Are they going for limited movie, or like I'm confused here?
It's the thing is, it's kind of like a little bit understated in a way that I don't know will grab attention the way that some other movies might. I enjoyed it. I think people will like it, but I found it a bizarre buy for HBO. This seems much more suited to be like one of those weird August releases that ends up getting a bunch of money. Like this should have been like a Good Boys type of release or a Booksmart type of release.
Interesting. Yeah, because we've been following the HBO acquisitions, especially earlier this year at Sundance, with Native Son and Cher, where they just bought them off A24.
Would they ever...
And that's it?
Would they ever dabble in...
Theatrical release?
Yeah, like Netflix does theirs. And
I don't know.
Could that be a game changer right there? I mean, and at that point, it wouldn't really be Emmys. You could still...
Yeah, at that point it would...
No, not really, would it?
No, at that point, once you have a theatrical run, you are able to submit... So yeah, that's what... Excuse me, they're doing that for The Irishman. That's why they're doing that for Two Popes. That's why they're doing that for everything. HBO, has never done that because they're like, no, we're TV reinvented.
Yeah.
But TV got to reinvent also. TV reinvented itself while HBO was doing their thing. And now HBO, I don't know if this is their run for something. Because with all these...
Maybe.
When Netflix had Beasts... what was the one from...
Beasts of No Nation?
Beasts of No Nation and stuff.
Yeah.
Remember? That was like the one movie out of the Brights and everything else. Mm-hmm. Now they got Irishman. Yep. Roma last year. So I don't know if HBO's just building into that. Maybe they got a little too cocky for a bit. They're like, we got Game of Thrones. We ain't got... People come to us. We ain't worried about the movie theaters and stuff. But now they're going... We can't get Emmys.
The game's changed.
Dude, yeah, the game's changed. If they're going to get in our spot, then we need to get some movies out there too. So, I mean, this is the only acquisition I've heard that they actually have a plan for. So I'm curious to see what they do.
Was there a dollar amount
I'm really mad
that
you
was
got
released?
Nah,
I believe they said the dollar amount was $20 million.
Wow.
What?
I believe that's what's been reported.
But my only thing is...
How much did Hugh Jackman cost?
Like, my only thing is if you pay that much for a thing, you can't just have it streaming, can you?
Yeah.
When you pay that much?
This is a new era.
It's a new era. I don't know. I don't know.
That's just crazy to me. I mean, you really bringing in that many new subscribers?
Hey, well, that Christmas movie starring Kurt Russell on Netflix made them $200 billion. So don't you underestimate,
Must be
okay?
sadly mistaken.
What else we got?
Something a little bit more low-key than that is the Romanian documentary Collective.
International Film Festival. Let me know about this because I got 20 emails from this a day from the PR team on this. Is it good?
It's really, really good, man.
I should have answered the emails.
I've only seen good things of it on Twitter.
Oh, no.
So this also falls into I've extolled Midnight Family several times on this podcast this year.
Yes.
It falls into the Midnight Family category of so well shot it could easily fool you into being a narrative movie.
Really quick, Midnight Family was a Sundance movie about this.
Another documentary that is
Mexican
just about Mexican paramedics, but both are just gorgeously shot in ways that and paced in ways that feel much more like narrative films than documentary films. The thing that I was really stunned by, because essentially this is a documentary about massive healthcare fraud in in the Romanian
Okay.
healthcare system. Sounds super compelling, right? No, not. I know that that's not like a selling point by itself, but what it ends up being is this kind of like spotlight, all the president's men, investigative reporters breaking down, knocking on walls and finding out things and kind of changing the system from the outside. This is one of the best journalism movies I've ever seen, and it's fiction. It's not fiction. I was really, really just blown away and gripped by this movie in a way that I wasn't expecting to be. It moves at a pace that not a lot of documentaries move at. It's got just some incredible footage, including the inciting incident for a lot of this stuff was a deadly fire at a nightclub in Romania. They somehow have the footage from inside the club.
What year was this?
I don't remember, but recently, 2015. It was a Bucharest nightclub called Collective, which is where the documentary gets its name from. It's easily just like it's not for the faint of heart. You don't see people burning alive. You hear some awful screams, but there's no one shot in a movie, documentary, or narrative this year that I was just pulled in by more than that one. So if only for those moments, you really, really got to see Collective.
Better than Midnight Family?
I don't think so personally, but I have a soft spot for Midnight Family. I thought Midnight Family did a lot of things really well. It kind of is this family drama on top of being an investigation into the Mexican ambulance system. I just kind of fell in love with that movie, but I think more people will like Collective than liked Midnight Family.
So going off of that, do you think that has a better awards run? Because
I would not be surprised at all to see it.
Did you see Honeyland?
He did.
Yes.
Because you were really big on that one. Because I said the movie about the bees, and you're like, homie, the movie about the bees. I have yet to catch that either.
Honeyland and Collective, I would expect to be heavily involved in the Oscar shortlist for documentaries.
Okay.
So one more movie, and then we'll move on to some things we've both seen. I got to check out The Two Popes. It's the upcoming Netflix release about the transition between Pope, I don't remember his Pope name, but Pope Ratzinger to Pope Bergoglio. We're living in one of the rare eras where there are two Catholic popes alive right now. And so this movie sort of takes some liberties with the truth to kind of get a situation where it's basically like a buddy comedy with these two guys. You have Jonathan Pryce playing the Argentinian Pope, and you have Anthony Hopkins playing the German Pope. And Ratzinger, for those of you who know anything about their legacies, it's basically thought of that Ratzinger, the older Pope, is much more of like a strict Bible reader in terms of how he thinks the doctrine should be spread, whereas Bergoglio is a little bit more lenient, a little bit more lax, a little bit more
Hopkins?
open.
Or
no, that would be Pryce as the more open one. Hopkins is the sterner one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So the entire movie ends up being, these guys sitting down, exchanging ideas about Catholicism or life and soccer and food and whatever have you. And it's just this really interesting series of conversations between two figures who are in very unique positions, right? Like, yes, these conversations, there's no way to know if these conversations actually happened, but just imagining what these two people would have to talk about ends up being super, super compelling.
It is.
Plus, given the skill of these two actors, I would love to have seen this as a play, just to see these guys live in front of me doing this kind of thing, because it really is just a two-hander. There's other people kind of in this movie, but they don't matter at all.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. It's just this is it's a weird way to describe it, but it is kind of a hangout movie if you want to hang out with two popes.
I told her the other day. I literally told her I have an idea for a short film. She said, "What is it?" I said, I said a rabbi, a priest, and an imam walk into a bar. That's all it says. And it was a story about how rabbis with other rabbis, it's like a competition with Catholics. It's like who can be holier. But when they're there with the opposition,
right,
go get some drinks. They ain't gonna judge you because they believe completely different. This is from the guy who did City of God.
Yeah, Fernando Meirelles.
I know. It was because it got picked up by Netflix, and I was like, I don't know. And then I'm looking here that it seems like it got pushed to December. I really hope that's not the case. I hope IMDb just is trolling me because they heard we're talking about it and they know I didn't catch it. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see that one again. I think that's also going to be, because the premise is something that's so kind of catchy. You can easily explain it. I think this is going to be one of those movies that's really easy to see with other people, to recommend to family and stuff like that. I would not be surprised if this is like one of those movies that a lot of people watch like together on Thanksgiving or at Christmas when you get together.
Yeah. It's insane. What you just saw, is that say?
The release date for Netflix, once it's available on streaming, will be closer to Christmas in December 20th.
Theatrically, though.
It'll come out, what did I say?
November 27th. Limited.
Yeah.
Limited. That's over a month almost.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sheesh. All right. That's exciting. Question for you. I know we've seen a lot together, right? Mm-hmm. Do you want me to name some randos here and there?
Yeah. Throw some out at me.
Did you hear anything about History of the Kelly Gang?
Only from you that it was too long and you did not like them.
I'm going to move on to the next one. The Vigil.
You liked this one, didn't you, for the most part?
This was the story of a Jewish man, like full-grown man, who's finally left the traditions, but he needs money. The thing is, though, this man never had an iPhone. That's how strict they were with him. So it really is a horror story with the metaphor being about this guy leaving that bondage of his religion. That said, what happened?
It's too loud?
So here's the thing. You guys told me that, and like, I trust you. Don't get me wrong. But my inclination is always to be like, well, maybe there was something wrong with the theater,
Could be. Could be.
That's been everybody's response to this movie. Every single person has been saying the sound mixer fucked this one up.
Bro, I don't know what happened.
Well, I mean, if it's only been released in Toronto,
they have time to edit it. Yeah, I know.
True, but I'm saying like maybe we all saw it.
No, it was different screenings. There was people who weren't critics. It was everyone. It was the sound mixer himself came out, fired himself. He was like, I don't know why y'all let me do this. Other quick ones. Nimic. Were you able to catch this?
Yeah. So this is the new Yorgos Lanthimos short film.
You take it.
We're fans of Yorgos. I think maybe me a little bit more than you. And I think this has got a similar thing for him where he strips people of their kind of emotions and has them just sort of going through life. It's a small idea.
It's a short film.
It's a short film. Matt Dillon is in it, but I think it's got a really funny idea at the center of it.
It's weird.
There's one scene that involves cuddling that I thought was hysterical.
Literally what I was just thinking.
That to me was something like that could have been like a deleted scene in The Lobster. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. It pretty much got that tone a bit. I'm going to name some other ones that I'm not sure you were able to catch. Color Out of Space.
Nope.
Were you able to see Mandy?
No, but I know a lot of people really love Mandy. Fans of
Mandy, go see this as a dietary option at the moment. It's not going to please you. I enjoyed it a bit more than Mandy. I love it's almost like, imagine Annihilation, the movie Annihilation. Imagine, what's his name? From Mandy in Color Out of Space? Nicolas Cage. Okay. Nicolas Cage and his family were inside the Annihilation bubble. And they had no idea what was going on. That's the movie. Another one, The Lighthouse. Were you able to catch that one?
No, I did not catch The Lighthouse. Please, tell me.
All I'll say is this. If you like Climax, this movie is for you. I have...
You did not like Climax.
Twitter, and everything. I know. Someone said, "I'm so glad The Lighthouse is low on your list." If it was, now I'm more excited. I've created. Someone once said the best thing of a.
It's a fruitful. I can't call it a fruitful relationship, but they know you're very consistent.
Exactly.
So if you don't like it,
and they know they're gonna love it, and they said that's all the critics should be. is as transparent as possible. Get excited. I don't want to watch it ever again. But it's very effective at what it does. The platform got picked up by Netflix, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me double check that. I want to see.
Very interesting story. A lot like if you're fans of Cube, The Exam, movies like that, where it all takes place in one area. It's, I'm just going to say, a couple hundred platform floors where you have to stay there in a cell. Some people are in there by choice. Some people are not. What's the bigger motive? I don't know. But what I do know is that food comes down and, well, by the time you're at one of the lower levels, they may not get to you. But every month you switch a level. I'll just leave it at that. Pretty intriguing. Could be a little bit more in there, but it's got such an intriguing premise. Again, another 99 to 1% type of thing going on. That I think people will be excited for it. You're a big Riz Ahmed fan, aren't you? Riz?
Oh yeah, Riz Ahmed. I was very curious about this movie.
Sound of Metal. I compare this one a lot to another Sundance movie, Sound of Silence, that both deal a lot with sound and stuff. Sound of Metal is really interesting. Maybe it's 130 minutes, maybe a little bit too long for my taste, but
it's
wow.
effective.
It's effective, and I'm very curious to hear what the deaf community has to say about this movie. The story of a rock star who starts losing his hearing, and he's the drummer, but this is all he knows.
Yeah.
Another one, as I'm moving on up here, You Will Die at 20 was, I can't remember what country in Africa this was the submission for, but this movie won also some stuff at Venice or Cannes, if I'm not mistaken. You Will Die at 20 is the story of this baby who's born in this town where one of the religious people ends up saying he's going to die at 20. And everyone casts him out because they truly believe he is, and it's just a countdown on his life.
That one had one of the more intriguing titles of
really
TIFF.
Intriguing. Black Conflux is a story of a serial killer and whether he does it or not. I'm going to just leave it at that. Sun Mother, were you able to catch it?
Yes. So maybe let's start...
We'll save that one. I just got two more. Weathering with You. I got to mention this or else they're going to kill us. I have to mention this or else they're going to kill us.
This is the director of Your Name, I believe.
Yes.
Shh, my man has security. We went to South by where Frodo just walks around like nothing.
Elijah Wood?
I was in line with Tobey Maguire. This man had security. Makoto Shinkai. They were not letting anyone touch this man. He is gold. Again, it's not going to be better than Your Name. Everyone who came out of it said it's not better than Your Name, but you're going to like the character of Senpai. I'll give you that one right there. And last but not least, if I'm no, we saw everything else together. Okay,
all
go
right,
from there.
So,
we saw everything else together.
Yeah, I mean, let's start off with one movie that I know you didn't see at TIFF, but you saw at Sundance. I finally got to catch it at TIFF.
Did you like it?
The Report. I did like this one. This is directed by Scott Z. Burns, the guy who does a lot of Steven Soderbergh's scripts. He did the script for The Bourne Ultimatum and stuff. This is a movie about the torture reports, the CIA's post 9/11 investigation into the detention and interrogation program, and it stars Adam Driver as this staffer who digs deep and relentlessly looks for more and more information that people kind of don't want him to find, but he remains committed to it. And the movie itself, I think, is a little skimp on character elements. I can't really tell you much about Daniel Jones as a person.
Soderbergh would have helped.
The guy that Adam Driver plays, but there are movies like this that I do find useful in a weird way, in that it's almost like an explainer video.
But as a movie.
As a movie, there's a lot of exposition, but it doesn't necessarily feel so exposition-y because it's people informing other people what happened. And it's about interesting things. So, is it a particularly brilliantly crafted movie? I don't know about that. I think some of the ways that it jumps through time was interesting, but as a summation of a really interesting set of real world events, I found it to be a totally engaging watch. I found it to go by quickly, and that I felt like I gained something from the experience of it. And I think a lot of that comes down to a really great Adam Driver performance in the lead role.
What do you think of it?
The Report? I always like when they do investigative things. That's always that's my type of film that I like. I mean, I grew up watching movies with my dad. He would watch his cop movies. I was always right there next with him, and I mean, it's always been. I like when people investigate, they find something else new, you know, they follow that leads nowhere, you know, you're stuck because of bureaucratic reasons, and you just keep going.
Comparing it to Zero Dark 30, though, because I think that's been one of the biggest things, and I agree with you.
Yeah, they do take a little bit of a swipe at Zero Dark 30 in the movie.
I was going to say, I was like, is this the movie that does the swipe?
Yeah, this is the one that does the swipe, and that was a big conversation with it, because they're covering kind of similar things. They just straight up call it out. I don't even know how you get the rights to show the trailer. But, like, they just call it out completely. Do you see it as a... Because that's the other thing, like you said, it's a perfect Wikipedia almost summation of it. But as a movie, you have artistic choices, you have biases. You have a bias. And that's the swipe that it takes here, is that Zero Dark 30 was trying too hard to be a very biased perspective of this. Here's how it goes. Because you're right. Adam Driver has no charisma in this movie. I am here to solve this thing, and I'm going to report what I need to report. There is, and I can't remember this line. It would be in our Sundance notes, where someone asks him something, and he's like, is that what you want to do? That's what I told you a minute ago that I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to do. He like did something where he just told him, he's like, that I don't care. Is this the right thing to do? That's what I'm going to do. He's like, but do you know what that means to you? I just said that my job is to do the correct thing.
Yeah, he's kind of like a robotic investigator.
Yes.
Very.
I like, you know, all credit to Adam Driver for making the guy interesting. Like I wanted to see him do more stuff. Yeah,
but we know that the real
I think that's through Adam Driver's delivery and not through the writing.
Exactly. This is a movie that's going to be coming out on Amazon Prime right away.
Wow.
Yeah, in theaters November 15th, or wait a week and a half, 2 weeks, and it's November 29th on Prime. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting movie to... Yeah, again, it's better to have it there because it's so much easier to be like, what happened at the... Let's go Amazon Prime. Gives you the... Yeah.
Right. Another movie that I know we both saw, we alluded to it earlier because it was chosen as France's submission to the Oscars instead of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Let's talk Les Miserables, and no, it's not the musical.
Man, dude, I keep getting people telling me Les Miserables. There's another one.
They remade
someone said that the Broadway community is against this movie because it's stripping a name. I was like, take it easy. I'm still kind of curious why I picked that name, because there's been so many. You know, I mean, it quotes the play.
Yeah, it takes place where the guy who wrote the Les Mis book was from.
Okay.
And it opens and I believe closes on a quote from him.
Yeah. And I know, Zach, we talked about this before. His short was of the same name.
Yes.
With the same actors that he has in the full feature.
I'm just surprised that the producers I mean, it worked. You know, they did the flight over and they got it to be the submission, so it works. And the more that we discuss it, obviously we like Portrait more.
But this...
You know, Celine said she wasn't going to do an Oscar run. Let the art live and speak for itself. Well, we'll be talking about that movie forever. But it's one of those things where it's like, I cannot hate on this movie because this movie was also really good. How did you describe it?
Do the Right Thing was my stupid little Twitter joke, because it's very similar to the kind of way that Spike Lee depicts the racial tensions in Do the Right Thing, but it's a little bit more than just like black versus white versus Asian or whatever.
It's the new one.
I
can't spoil it.
There's elements of class. There's elements of, you know, people who have taken advantage of manipulating.
Movie.
Yeah, it's youth versus adults too.
There you go. Thank you. Hey, don't take this away from me, Zach. Pass the baton over here. So this movie is Lahane meets Training Day. This is a movie where it goes, there's the left, there's the right. What else did you guys come up with? Red and blue. There's conservative, there's liberal. Yeah, then there's also the youth that doesn't give a damn.
Right,
and that was also an interesting thing with other stuff that we noted while we were watching some screenings of Sundance, and disconnects with an upcoming movie that has an incredible playlist, but we realized only hits if you grew up with these songs. And you start seeing that disconnect, and this movie is one of the very first that I've seen that really gets the internet, and it doesn't even show the internet. It gets the internet, and it doesn't even mention the internet from what I know. A little bit with Insta.
You see the police... They have adapted in using social media because of whatever they're investigating. They're like, well, some kid's going to be dumb enough to post about it. Like, that's the era we're in. It's like, you just got to, like, why do I have to leave my car when you're just going to flaunt about it and I just can look it up?
Yeah. And they do.
It's very interesting.
But in there is the third act where they have a character that's who a lot of kids are going to... Bro, they ended on a something, okay? I would have preferred another. I kind
It's
of
a
like it
little
too.
bit
I'm not mad
ambiguous.
at it. I'm not mad at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It gets the point across though, which is that hey, old timers, this new generation does not care. What was that girl saying? And I don't know her name, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. The environmentalist who was saying, "Well, isn't your mom not going to be able to travel as much?" She was on like the Trevor
Right
Noah
here,
or something.
Greta Thunberg.
She just put this girl literally was on the front page. She just posted up Twitter. What's her name?
Greta Thunberg.
Dude, she is all
Right,
over
the
the place to the degree
activist.
that this girl literally said, "Well, your mom can't travel with your idea of not using planes. She'll survive." And
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like, well, she said, I don't care. And everyone took it
And bad.
like the wrong way. But she's like,
She's
yeah,
a
she
G.
found something else. She found, I believe, Broadway or
Something
something,
that she didn't have to
else that her
tell
mom can do. And she adapted. You
but
know,
her
she's
face
still-
was literally like, "Did you not just hear that we will die? My mom's Broadway career doesn't matter if we die."
Right.
It's that new generation that's going, "You older people, y'all too busy." That's this movie. It's this new generation way of thinking that, you know, I sometimes, when we talk to our younger friends, still in high school friends, they're not really talking about like black and white. It depends still where you're at. You know,
Right,
but like
right.
you're from New York, we're from Illinois, and a lot of them is like, this still happening? You know?
Right, yeah.
Like I think the Parkland kids and stuff, and they're at a point where they don't care what side you're on. They're looking at if you're doing something or if you're not.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that's what happens at the end of this movie. It's angry. It's
You're not with me, you're against me.
It's
And-
worth the submission, even though we prefer Portrait, but it's worthy of it.
Yeah.
And
it's
I
very
think,
timely.
you know, to get back to that idea of the submission, I think that might ultimately be part of why it was chosen. You know, I'm saying this having not seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire, so obviously I don't have that knowledge, but you guys do, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. Les Miserables feels like a movie that's talking about the moment. It feels like a movie that is really about France right now. And when you're talking about a film that's not just going up for an award, but going up to represent the country of France.
Yeah.
It's
I think
insane.
that's ultimately maybe why
And it's a-
this
it's
was
a good
chosen,
choice.
despite all the positive praise that
Yeah.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire has gotten. You know, this has also been very well received, and it
It's
might
good.
just be a little bit more like about something that everybody deals with.
The other thing about this one is that America can relate a lot to it with
Totally.
everything
I
that's
mean,
going on as well. And that's
Maya
not
Do
to,
the Right Thing is
Exactly.
because it felt so
literally.
familiar.
Again, I've never been to France. I was like, we see that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Portrait, though, does have a lot. The running scene on the beach dealing with the maid, if you've seen the movie, when you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Georgia. there's some stuff in Portrait that just because it takes place in the past,
1770.
that's the point. That's the point it's making. Is that the fact that that's still going on now? That's a problem. But dude, I don't know if you have anything else to add to this movie.
Now let's move on to Sun Mother. So this is
told
a
you to watch
movie
this
that
one. Yeah.
yeah, this is a movie that's kind of divided into two parts. It's a pretty interesting premise where there's this single mother in they're in Iran, right?
I believe so. It's in the Middle East, and she has a baby daughter
Yes,
and she
Iran.
has a son, but she has no money
Yes.
coming in.
It is in Iran, and she's a widow.
And because of that, what ends up happening is that she needs to get married in order to be able to have enough to provide for her sick baby daughter, infant daughter. But because of that,
The father, potential husband rather, is not allowed, but for
son.
whatever reasons, to bring the son into the house as
Yeah.
well.
Because
so
he has a
essentially,
daughter.
the mother has to abandon the son in order to secure a future. And it becomes this really
Temporarily,
interesting
yeah.
thing because it's separated into two stories, the one of the mothers and the one of the sons. And they kind of inform each other, but they are largely absent from each other. You know, even though the son is present for the mother's story, he's not
In it.
actively
Yeah.
affecting it.
and when it's his
Yeah.
turn, she gone. But one of the most
For me, I found the stuff with the son to be much more affecting.
how did I pitch it to you?
may-
I pitched it to you with the son's perspective.
Yeah. Which, you know, maybe that's just because I don't know. I don't even know why.
The way that I pitched it to you was the fact that she needs to get rid of the son for a certain period of time until the daughter grows up, until the husband's daughter grows up and goes, and so they need to put him in a school, and certain things happen in order to find a school.
Maybe it's that his story is a little bit
deaf.
Sorry, maybe it's that his story is a little more relatable, being that I think we can relate more with the idea of wanting a mother around than wanting to get rid of a son.
And it's not that she wants to get rid of the son.
Yes,
but if not, the daughter, she's not going to have enough to provide for the daughter. So it's an interesting dynamic that needs to go. But the son is so intriguing because he has to pretend to be deaf because the only place to put him is a deaf school. And he can hear everything.
Which
I'm not going to say another thing. I'm not going to say another thing, but there's another aspect to it about people.
There's a lot of that dynamic is used really well. I think it was just maybe more cinematically compelling to me. Although the mother's story is also interesting. It's just I could have probably done a whole movie about just the son.
Easily. What else we got?
What did you think about Antigone?
Ooh, we talking about Antigone. Okay, so Antigone is a French-Canadian film that every single time I was asking someone for tickets or advice on this movie, everyone told me, yes, I've read the French. I've read the Socrates. Yeah, and I was like, cool. Can I get tickets available, though? This movie is a modern adaptation of that Socrates play called Antigone. It's a tragedy. Oh, my goodness, is it a tragedy. And it has been updated to a modern time where these refugees have gone into Canada to go live in Quebec, Montreal, which, wow, I've not been to Montreal, but dang, between Toronto and Montreal, they really just speak mostly French over there. And you have these characters, this family who goes by those names. Antigone is the name of the main character, the girl, and she has a brother, two brothers technically, and an altercation happens with the police. It's not a spoiler, right? Her idea of what she wants to do? She wants to sacrifice everything for her family, and since her and her brother look a little bit alike, well, before he gets deported because he gets caught doing something, I want to do the switcheroo so he can be free. And he goes, and it becomes this whole movement. One of the best things that the movie does, she noticed the colors of red always being on her because then that becomes a huge push when they do the sort of Banksy... I thought the way they covered social media was interesting because it's not one specific thing. It's just an edit, but the edit very much evokes Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter moments. Without ever showing any of those symbols.
There's like an intimacy to a lot of it, in that you get like really up close and personal into a lot of their decisions and what they're thinking, what they're watching. I found it's very the way that it depicts the emotion of these characters is really, really interesting. Yeah,
the final court scene. She has to stare at him, and man, it really is Les Mis, the third act. That same anger from the third act, it's here. You see it in the courtroom. They act a little bit more goofier with the ringtones and stuff, but I don't know if you want to add anything to the movie. To me, I think it's a really good movie with some stuff like when the switcheroo happens, it's goofy. When the switcheroo happens, I was laughing.
At least the switcheroo didn't last it's been a few days and no one noticed.
That's
at least it was instantaneous because I was like,
there were moments like that took me out a bit.
Yeah, it takes you off for a bit, but then they find a way to bring you back in pretty quickly.
Yes.
And overall, I did very much enjoy it. I think it's I don't know if it's going to get a theatrical run or anything like that with all the foreign films that are coming out, but if someone can pick this
French,
up for
Canadian.
A streaming release, that'd be really cool. I think it was a pretty good adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got two left, and they are pretty big ones.
We saw them at the same exact theater, same exact seats.
I know this one for sure.
Right underneath it, baby.
Oh, okay.
Let's go. Which one you want to talk about first?
Yes.
Unless you want to pick. Oh, you got them. I don't know.
No, so let's pick.
Let's start with the Wave.
All right, let's get it started.
Waves.
Describe it.
So this is our boy,
Trey Edward Schultz.
Trey Schultz, as well as our other boy, Kelvin Harrison Jr., having a great year between this and Loose.
Oh my goodness! Since last year, my man's been carrying it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hard movie to describe, really, because there's kind of 4 or 5 movies packed into Waves.
Easily.
Yes.
but it's kind of about the intense emotions of being a teenager and the unknowability of what's going to come next when you're just discovering all these things about life and love and relationships. And it's so compellingly acted by this cast that the emotion is just the most present thing that I found throughout this movie. I found myself deeply empathizing with every character in this film because I had a full understanding of not only where they came from, but what they were bringing into a situation, what they were keeping secret from a situation. It's just such a well-rounded movie in terms of the way it depicts the different situations these people find themselves in. I thought it was one of the best dramas I've seen in quite some time. Wow. And it's just about so much that it's almost like Boyhood in a way to me, in that it's like, it's so expansive that it's like, this is just a movie about life.
Interesting. You haven't mentioned that one yet. That's a pretty good. I compared it to Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. You can find 4 or 5 movies. I see 2 distinct movies in Waves. Waves Part 1, Waves Part 2. Very clear. And a big part is, what did you keep tapping me after you heard every single one? That soundtrack.
The soundtrack
is insane. The first half of the soundtrack has to do with the brother, Calvin Harrison, and what he listens to, and oh boy, is it just names. I don't think
Kendrick
these are
Lamar,
this is what got it.
Freestyle, Kanye West, I
Life
Am
of
a
Pablo
God,
Poster in the Bed.
Tyler the Creator, I Fucking Hate You,
Insane.
Just bangers.
And then the second half
It's a little more ethereal.
Still could be found on our iPhone playlist, but
Yeah,
it's different.
but it's
Now
a
we
little
have
more Animal Collective. It's a little more Radiohead. You get into some Chance the Rapper.
It's a nice little distinct split between the
Tame
two.
Impala.
If a character doesn't need to be shown, we won't show him. It doesn't matter how big he is. He's just going to be on the side.
Yep.
Sometimes I was worried they weren't going to show some characters. It's a very interesting movie in the sense of, we said Waves. I remember we were talking about it, and at the end of our discussion of talking about like Place Beyond the Pines and how it's a father, and the father may not be there for the next cycle, but he's still, that son is carrying whatever his father, the weight of his father, and it's this, and you're like, Waves. It's these waves. And then we talk about something effects that I do not want to mention that you also compared to Waves, but you had said that you could see I couldn't see every single's perspective until I said a specific line in the second half of the movie that made me go, damn you, Trey Edward Schultz, now I need to see this movie again, because it changes every scene at the beginning. And then you go, yeah, just like Waves. I won't say why he said Waves, but the specific reveal that the sister gives adds a fourth meaning to the title Waves. And then there are literal waves, because, A24 likes shooting.
I told you guys this before, but while we were sitting there, I wrote a note to myself in the notepad. Like, I have no idea where this movie's going, but I am here, and I'm with it the whole way. It just grabbed me, and I wanted to go on the journey with it.
Yeah. It's an experimental
Alina, what did you think about Waves?
I loved it. I did also notice the 2 distinctions of the movies. I did just think of it as 2, as far as the brother and then the sister.
Yeah.
But I mean, I even looked at him. I'm like, how much longer? I'm like,
she thought it was going to end.
I'm like, I thought it was going to end at some point, and it's like, no, it just kept going. I'm like, these are 2 movies. I'm like, but again, like you said, we're here, we're watching it, you're in it, and it was fantastic. It was great.
135 minutes, so it definitely feels you're reaching the 90-minute mark when you think it's going to end.
Yeah. I think that's.
And you go, is he really going to end it here? And then it goes to something else, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, this is the epilogue. It's not an epilogue.
I mean, that's actually
it's another movie."
It is, without getting too much into spoilers, it is kind of the brilliant thing about the movie, in that a lot of films would choose to end in the moment that we're talking about, and this is a movie that wants to see the consequences, wants to see the waves of the action. Wants to.
He's good.
Feel the full impact, and I think it's taking a smaller story and then playing it out to the full conclusion,
Gotta give a little shout out to the production designer, because the colors in this movie were fantastic. They hint at the color scheme with the brother, and then what that amounts to later on, and it's just like, it was there the whole time. Whole time.
There's a specific colorway that she noticed like 20 minutes in his room when it came to the blinds.
Yeah.
And it was 4 specific colors. And depending on where you're moving in the spectrum of waves, one of the 4 colors starts overshadowing another until the climax. And then it starts going the opposite way until the other opposite colored... Bro, what the? Oh my goodness. I can't spoil. Yeah, I just realized how that also relates to the environments that they're in. So yeah, from the production, dude. So the cinematography, what I was saying is it's very experimental. Mm-hmm. And we were just, what movie did we just see the behind the scenes to? With the camera in the car.
Oh, yeah, Children of Men.
Because
I wanted to see how they did the rotation of certain scenes.
And I don't know how they did it for this one, but we know the whole contraption. A lot of the movie is shot like that. It's continuous shots, and they're just going at it.
Yeah, the camera is very hypnotizing in this movie. The way that it moves with characters. I want to point out specifically in some of the wrestling scenes, the way that as his body gets hit, the camera moves with the body.
WWE style, yeah.
Yes.
We said that.
Trey is a filmmaker who does a lot of really interesting things, just filmically, whether it's like film format or it's the camera movements.
We also like that. When that happened, you hit me. You're like, I know you're a fan of this, and I was like, no one told me I was going to do that.
He's a guy who's using all the tools available to him as a filmmaker to play with your emotions and to tell the story he's trying to tell. So I was really blown away by the movie. It's a lot of movie.
That's the thing. Can we talk about how I feel like a lot of people are not going to like this? I feel like a lot of people.
Yes.
It makes sense. So production designer for this is Elliot Hostetter. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Did the Neon Demon. It makes so much more sense.
Neon Demon has a whole story happening in the production. Yeah. But as you were saying, it's a lot. And this is the specific movie I was talking about when we were mentioning the third act of Les Mis. If you don't listen to this music, maybe it's not for you. That was something our good friend Carson Runquist said. He's like, I realized that I was looking around. If you don't bump to this music, maybe this isn't. Yeah, maybe this isn't for you. Yeah. And you had noticed it with another screening where we didn't get a song, but the older critics,
they knew the lyrics and kind of where the song was gonna go.
They got the vibe before we did.
So so they knew the direction and they started laughing before we even knew what was going on.
But the difference is this doesn't. We had this kind of discussion. Is it condemning the music? Or not?
I don't feel that way about it, but I see the argument for it.
Can you see how if you aren't for the music, you then condemn it? And,
totally.
If you already don't listen to it, you're like, okay, well, this is... And I felt that might be a really big disconnect. But the whole beginning of the movie, I was literally looking over at her, and I said a specific friend's name. And we're like, this is his story. Until...
Yeah.
But until that point, I'm like, I know this kid.
It's the quick shifts that this movie does take that I think will also make it not for everybody. Mm-hmm. I don't know if everybody... It is kind of ready for a movie that begins as one genre and then becomes 3 other genres before it ends.
Yeah. Why not? He even said, I don't know why they gave us money for this movie. And then was one of the, and I don't know if my last thing to say here is someone said, how much more of this movie is there? He went, a lot.
Oh yeah, the girl even said, we filmed a lot. That didn't even make it in.
A lot.
Something that might appeal to more people, but is also a tough time, a tough hang.
Yes.
Just as exhausting.
Some people are already mad.
Uncut Gems.
Baby.
All right, we haven't really talked about this much. This was our final movie of the festival.
Of the year.
What?
Parasite Portrait Uncut of the year. That's how it is. That's not my TIFF. That's my of the year.
For me, right now, I got Uncut and Farewell battling it out for that one spot.
That high?
I really love
You've
Farewell.
Had Farewell since Sundance.
You did.
Yeah.
I remember. We
I'm not saying like what Farewell's up there. I know Farewell's up there. I'm surprised Uncut is getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
Where's it for you?
Do you know the second time I saw Uncut really cemented a lot of things for me because
this is the one you saw twice.
I thought I was gonna enjoy Waves more, but then I sat there and like, wow, every scene in this movie is great.
Yes.
Every single thing that happens in this movie is entertaining. The cast is unbelievable. I don't know if we're going to spoil some of the faces who show up in this movie, but
they're
it's
all going to be in the trailer. And I feel by the time we get this one up, it'll be very close to the trailer. So if you don't like it, Oh, is it tomorrow?
It is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Explain everything.
This is a movie that has a plot line involving Kevin Garnett playing in the 2012 NBA Finals.
Yep.
And
As
it's like
Kevin Garnett.
a very major part of this movie.
Why is he so good in this movie?
It's
Kevin
maybe
Garnett has no business being this good in this movie.
It's maybe the best extended cameo performance I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's a role. At first you're like,
Yeah.
it's a cameo. And then we go, it's a role.
When he told me,
No,
he's
like
like, there's a certain cameo, and I'm like, well, a cameo is kind of like a high buy.
Like, not even a singer who, and I will spoil, because they were at the TIFF event. He
Yeah.
doesn't go by The Weeknd anymore. He goes by Fin de Semana with that mustache he brought to TIFF. But even him, the Safdie brothers said, I know Tarantino's leaving. We got this.
Yep.
That's been my thing, and I will stand by it. The Safdie brothers have come. I hate that we go, oh, Jordan Peele's not the new Hitchcock. They're nowhere like, we know that. We know that.
Right, right.
The height of where he was in horror, that's where our boy is right now. Where Tarantino was as being that golden indie boy, those are the Safdie brothers. They're not going to be similar movies, but Tarantino's run is ending, so the Safdie brothers can fly.
Yeah, so this is a movie that stars Adam Sandler as a New York City diamond seller, dealer.
Diamond District,
but
yep.
he's also a guy who is a habitual gambler and has debts and
It's a problem.
and bets placed all over town. So this is a movie that's just, it hits the pavement. It's a ground and pound movie. It's on the move constantly.
Always.
Whether
All the
it's
time.
going from one location to another, or it's just like the 5 different conversations
That's how
happening
he
around
pitched
him
it
at
to me.
once.
Yes.
Both these are Waves and Uncut Gems are very different movies. One thing they both have in common that I think was great is they're both like
you breathe.
they're these cacophonies of sound. They never they never give your ears a break. And in Waves, it's more like you get the highs of the music and then the tension of the arguments. With Uncut Gems, it's just, I can't hear because you're all nagging me. And
Yes.
why is my back muscle tightening up right now?
I felt that at home. You know me. I don't shut up. So when there's 5 conversations going on at once, I'm listening to all 4. She sees me when I'm listening to an interview, watching a TV episode, on Twitter, listening to a song. She's like, what? Can you
I'm
turn
like,
at least 2 of them
I'm
off?
like, you play at least 2. I'm like, you can't have all 5.
And I play them in fast motion too?
Yeah,
and she's like,
times
how are
2.
you grasping everything? And I was like, This movie has 5 conversations going on at once in a very Fincher-esque thing. If you are inside of a club, yell, because the music will be as loud.
Yep.
Well, what happens when you're in a little diamond store? If they're talking behind the counter and you're talking here, why wouldn't you still be able to hear them in the background?
Yep.
It's just a little muffled. This is a movie you can rewatch multiple times and just pick who you want to listen to. And I think everyone is. This isn't like The Lighthouse where someone said, can we have subtitles and when it comes out to theaters? But this one is like, I don't even know how you would put the subtitles. The main convo and then the side convo up here. I love that so much. When he told me, he's like, this movie is... so much is happening. I was like, this sounds crazy. It does not let up. Do you see the Twitter post of the guy complaining?
No.
He was so disgusted.
That?
The movie hurt him. He said there was too much going on. It's a viral post. I'll send it to you guys afterwards so you can see it.
Yeah.
He was so mad. He was furious with the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I could see some people going into this movie being like, I couldn't hear the plot.
Loved it.
But for me, that wasn't an issue at all. You know, like it adds to that anxious energy and that constant movement and that propelling nature to the story. You know, you feel Sandler kind of spinning out and getting into this place where he's got his back against the wall, but you see all the steps that led him there, and maybe you don't agree with every one of his choices, but you see how it happened.
Exactly.
And it's just it's got such an energy to it that I was really completely swept away by. It's very funny, not funny the way that most Adam Sandler movies are funny, but funny in kind of like a dirty,
you need to explain
mean
that
way.
Yeah, because we still got some people who go Sandler films. I'm gonna skip that. Can you please give them down that there's 2 Sandlers? Can you let people know there's 2 Sandlers?
There's the Shabba-dee-doo Sandler that with the Happy Madison movies and Grown Ups and whatever. And then there's
deal.
Adam Sandler, the actor. Yes. And, you know,
hit him with it.
One of my favorite movies of all time is Punch Drunk Love. This is an echo of Punch Drunk Love. This is the like angry version of Punch Drunk Love. He even wears a blue suit towards the end of the movie. I don't know if you caught that.
Yes, I did. Again, even what was he? Meyerowitz Stories. Sandler has a bunch of really good movies where he's a great actor. It's just people get swept up in that. No, know that this is one of the good ones. Zach and I always go, is this the one of this year? No? Okay, isn't it? We always go, because we know he has it in him. Yeah. They overworked this man. They overworked this man. I forgive him for the murder party mystery one.
For vacationing
yeah, all those vacations he takes and he calls it a Netflix movie. That's fine. Take another one of those. Thank you for Uncut Gems.
Dude. Yeah, definitely.
It's the kind of it's a movie that makes you wish he did these kinds of roles more than once every 5 years.
Yes,
you know?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned, as I was going into the movie, you're like, yo, so-and-so plays himself here, or there's this person that you wouldn't even... He's an announcer in New York. Why would he be playing
Mike Francesa.
Yes.
People don't need to know anything about the NBA, Kevin Garnett, or The Weeknd to enjoy this movie. There was even some... There was she didn't know it, and then there was some stuff that you didn't catch on where I was like, dude, that's definitely Yes Jules. I just said the name Yes Jules. You either know her or you don't. If you don't know her and you search her up, if you have a significant other, be careful. That was one of the characters, and I even told you, I said, what's her name again? I said, Jules. I was like...
Julia Fox.
You're literally making fun of Yes Jules. They're so engraved into the culture. The Safdie brothers are on another level, man. Yeah,
that's the thing that is really... I think stands out about this movie is it does have this read on the culture. You know, there's a moment in the movie where Kevin Garnett gets something and exchanges it for agreeing to post a photo in Howie's store on Instagram, which is like, that's the kind of thing that happens so much in modern life, but it's never depicted in the movies.
We don't see what Kevin Garnett looks like when he walks in and everyone's going, oh my gosh, big fan. Like, I love you, Kevin. I can't give it to you. No, I am a big fan, Kevin. Yeah. I am a big fan. All of that to boil up to that crazy finale.
Yeah, that finale is so good. What sets it
up, though, the decision to set it up when everyone just went. Collectively, there was, what comes out? CO2?
I think I had
so much CO2 after the decision is made.
There's 2 moments.
She got so mad. She was like,
2 moments. There's 2. The first one would be bets and how those transpire. And the second one would be kind of bets.
I know what
how
it is.
They're made.
And how they're made.
And how they're made. Yeah, without spoiling anything.
Without spoiling anything else.
Yeah. It's very... You get a reaction.
Yeah.
That's what I know that's exactly what you're getting at. You get a reaction when characters do certain things.
Yeah, this is not going to be a movie that people sit down and we're like, I was just bored. Like, you're either going to like it or you're going to hate it.
No. Yeah.
You might hate it and hate everyone in it.
It was awesome. I mean, Zach, since you've seen it twice, technically, do you feel like there's any moment where you can go to the bathroom and come back and feel like you didn't miss anything? Because I feel like absolutely not.
I saw it, like I said, for a second time, and the second time I decided to go to the bathroom, and I came back and I still felt like I was lost, even though I saw it before. He said,
where are we? I said, you've seen this. I said, I don't know where we're at. If I try to catch you up, I'm going to fall behind.
Yep.
I think this is something that you see in the Safdie brothers films where... every action has a reaction, and that works very much in driving the plot forward in that, you know, all these decisions kind of fall into one another, and you know, it's hard to realize how we got to the end when we get there, but the progress there was seamless.
I said the exact same thing. I heard people complain about the ending. I said there is no other ending.
Perfect.
There is no other ending.
Yeah.
Incredible. If I'm comparing it to Tarantino, I think it's very Pulp Fiction-esque.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people compare their work to Scorsese because it's got that kind of energy, and it's on the streets of New York a lot of the time. Scorsese is a producer on the movie, so that makes sense too. I mean, it's got elements of that stuff, but it's got a little bit of their own thing too. If you've seen Good Time, it's definitely got some similarities to that, although I'm putting this one above Good Time.
Damn. Same. I've said it with no problem whatsoever. And people keep telling me, well, rewatch Good Time. And I said, watch Uncut.
Right.
I was like, you haven't seen Uncut yet. I don't know what to tell you. Great movie. My last little thing here with it is, do you feel that Safdie brothers are the kids? There was a one little slight thing, and I just want to mention it out there before people pick it up, because I saw somebody else someone who was mad at it called this out, and I went, so even the people mad at it also caught something that we did. Do they kind of see, is this kind of I don't want to put words into, because
semi-autobiographical. It is supposed to be based on someone they know. I think it might be an uncle or a friend.
That's all I'll put it at. Because there's a certain scene involving the kids who, again, a beautiful way of showing how disconnected he is with his kids. I went at one point and I went, he has a daughter. It's like, the movie's almost over, did you? There's a point where I was just like, this feels a little close to them, especially when, like you said, we don't need to know anything about the playoffs. How the hell did they get the express written consent of the NBA? And they show you the game. They show you the game. If you're a sports fan, this is for you. If you love dialogue in movies, times 5 in this. If you're ready to catch one of the most... Zach, give me some words here. Some of the most anxious and just...
It's tense.
Tense. It builds your
uncomfortable.
Tension. Your blood pressure is going to be up the entire time.
Eat Cheerios before you go in. Like, I don't know how else to tell you this. People came out like sweating. They were like, "Dude, what?" Again, a very similar reaction to Wave. Very unrelenting.
Yes, unrelenting is a great word for it. So we're definitely going to talk more about Uncut Gems, about Waves, about a lot of these movies as we continue. But these were the ones that stood out to us. For this year's Toronto International Film Festival. We had to go long. A lot of great stuff.
Yeah. Because again, years when we go back and we go, we missed time. No, it's better to talk about everything. We'll be mentioning stuff with the podcast. We also have the Let Me Explain video coming up. Yep. We wanted to make sure we covered every single thing, and hopefully new movies are on your radar. That's the most beautiful thing about the International Film Festival. They have the big presentations, but within there you get The Sun Mother. Within there you get... I'd say Antigone. Waves is still big, but you get Antigone, you get La Belle Epoque.
Collective.
There's so many of those hidden gems that you wouldn't have seen otherwise, and many that we still miss, and we're hoping to get. You're catching a bunch in New York, we're catching a bunch in Chicago, so Letterboxd, Twitter, all those things that you'll be able to follow us on. But very exciting. I think we were able to cover a lot.
Yeah, so that's all for this edition of Let Us Explain. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich. That's ZSHE, V as in V Ferrari, ICH. And check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplex show. Art, Alina, where can people find more from the two of you?
You can find me on Twitter at Montemayor Alina. That's MONTEMAYOR, Alina, ALINA. From there you can find my Instagram and my Letterboxd, which I do sprinkle in some other movies that both of you didn't catch, mainly shorts, which are definitely...
She outdid us this year.
She did. I mean, she has her own. She even told me, she was like, "You think I can make a best shorts of the year?" I was like, okay, go for it. I mean, go for it.
I have more sprinkled in there. If you wanted to look at the Letterboxd, it'll all be on Twitter.
I had a video on Let Me Explain coming out soon for some of the shorts. Oh, man. Well, I guess we'll talk about it on the podcast. We missed one thing. You can find me at the A to Z show. You can find all of our updates on Let Me Explain as well, the Twitter page that we have going on for that. But you need to go over to Z Shevik's page, because we didn't talk about the disaster that happened at the Shorts program. We can't talk about it at the end like that. We're going to have to leave it on a cliffhanger. And
you'll hear about that on the podcast.
Someone even tweeted and said, "Are we just going to ignore this?" You even found the Reddit thing. And I was going to go in there. I was like, "No, baby, we're going to talk about this for sure."
All right.
But as always, you can find us all and all of our guests and everything over on the Intercut Podcast.
Yes, you can listen to every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on Spotify, on your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not only to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on youtube.com/multiplex. Intercut Pod. Read from the wrong part of the page. youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can catch our bright smiling faces as we run through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Friday we're now doing, as well as others sprinkled throughout the week, like this Let Us Explain. Please leave us a comment, like the video, and consider heading over to iTunes to leave us a 5-star review. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at IntercutPod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from Alina, from me, from all of the guests we have here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, the Wintergreen Theater is my favorite theater in all of Toronto.
You meant Winter Garden.
Shoot!